Alexander the Great, a name that echoes through more than 2,000 years of history. Born in 356 BC in the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, he would grow to become one of the most extraordinary leaders the world has ever seen. His father, King Philip II, was a brilliant soldier and strategist who unified Greece under Macedonian rule. His mother, Queen Olympias, was fiercely ambitious and told her son from childhood that he was destined for greatness. Surrounded by politics, war, and ambition, Alexander grew up believing that he was meant to change the world. At the age of 13, Alexander began studying under one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Aristotle. Under Aristotle's guidance, he learned philosophy, science, politics, and ethics. He read the works of Homer and admired Achilles, the legendary warrior of the Iliad. From these stories, Alexander learned the ideals of courage, glory, and leadership. But Aristotle also taught him something deeper: the power of knowledge, culture, and curiosity. These lessons would later shape not only Alexander's conquests, but also the empire he built. Even as a child, Alexander showed signs of greatness. One famous story tells of a wild horse no one could tame. The young prince noticed that the horse was afraid of its own shadow. Turning the animal toward the sun, he calmly mounted it. That horse, Bucephalus, became Alexander's lifelong companion in battle, a symbol of courage, understanding, and control. When Alexander was 16, his father went to war and left him in charge of Macedonia. In his father's absence, a rebellion broke out. Without hesitation, Alexander led his troops into battle, crushed the uprising, and founded a new city to mark his victory. It was clear he was born to lead. In 336 BC, King Philip was assassinated, and at just 20 years old, Alexander became king. Many thought the young ruler would be too inexperienced, but Alexander moved swiftly. He eliminated rivals, secured his throne, and united the Greek states once again. And then his eyes turned east, toward the greatest empire the world had ever known, Persia. In 334 BC, Alexander led an army of 35,000 men across the Hellespont into Asia Minor, marking the beginning of his legendary campaign. His first major battle came at the river Granicus. The Persians stood waiting on the opposite bank, their army much larger than his. But Alexander attacked head-on, leading his cavalry through the river and breaking the enemy line. It was a bold and dangerous move, and it worked. The victory opened the gateway to Asia and established Alexander's reputation as an unstoppable commander. From there, Alexander marched south, facing city after city. When the island fortress of Tyre refused to surrender, he built a massive causeway from the mainland to the island, a feat of engineering that amazed even his enemies. After 7 brutal months, Tyre fell. The message was clear: resistance to Alexander meant destruction. Yet those who surrendered often found him merciful and fair, showing that he could be both ruthless and pragmatic. In 333 BC came the Battle of Issus, where Alexander faced the Persian king Darius III himself. The Persian army was enormous, but Alexander's tactics were brilliant. He led a direct cavalry charge at Darius, causing chaos in the Persian ranks. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving his mother, wife, and children behind. Alexander treated them with respect and honor, earning admiration even among his enemies. But the greatest battle was yet to come, the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. Here, Darius assembled an army said to be 5 times larger than Alexander's. The battlefield stretched for miles. Darius relied on numbers. Alexander relied on genius. Using speed, deception, and precise coordination, he outflanked the Persians and broke through their center. Once again, Darius fled, and the Persian Empire, once the mightiest in the world, collapsed. Alexander was now the master of an empire that stretched from Greece to Babylon and beyond. Despite his victories, Alexander was not only a conqueror, he was a visionary. Wherever he went, he founded cities, many of which he named Alexandria. The most famous in Egypt became a great center of knowledge, home to the legendary Library of Alexandria. He encouraged trade, learning, and cultural exchange, spreading Greek language and ideas across Asia and blending them with local traditions. This fusion created what historians call the Hellenistic world, a mix of Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian influences that shaped art, science, and philosophy for centuries. Yet Alexander's story also has a darker side. His ambition knew no limits. Cities that resisted him were often destroyed, their people massacred or enslaved. As he grew older, his personality changed, perhaps hardened by war, perhaps corrupted by power. He began to see himself as a living god, adopting Persian customs and demanding divine honors. Some of his closest friends and generals questioned his decisions, and Alexander responded with deadly paranoia. He executed those he suspected of betrayal, including his lifelong companion Clytus, in a fit of drunken rage. The man who had once inspired loyalty through bravery now ruled through fear. Even so, his army continued to follow him. They crossed deserts, mountains, and rivers that few had ever dared to face. Alexander led them into India, where he encountered elephants in battle for the first time. The Indian campaign was fierce, the heat unbearable, the terrain brutal, but Alexander's determination never faltered. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, he faced King Porus, a powerful ruler commanding elephants and thousands of warriors. The fight was bloody, yet Alexander's strategy and courage won again. Impressed by Porus's bravery, Alexander not only spared his life, but reinstated him as a local king, another example of his mix of power and respect. But the endless wars took their toll. His soldiers, weary from years of campaigning, longed to return home. When Alexander announced plans to march even further east, his men refused. For the first time, the unstoppable conqueror had to turn back. On the journey home, he faced harsh deserts, storms, and disease that killed thousands of his men. Yet even in retreat, Alexander remained larger than life, still dreaming of new worlds to conquer. In 323 BC, at the height of his power, Alexander arrived in Babylon. He was planning his next campaign, perhaps to Arabia or even beyond. But suddenly he fell ill. Within days, the greatest conqueror the world had ever known was dead. He was only 32 years old. The exact cause of his death remains a mystery: fever, poison, or exhaustion. But his passing left an empire without a clear successor. Within a few years, his generals divided the empire among themselves, yet none could match his brilliance. Even in death, Alexander's legend endured. He had created one of the largest empires in history, stretching from Greece to Egypt, from Persia to India. But more importantly, he had changed the world's culture. Greek ideas mixed with Eastern traditions to form a new global civilization. Science, art, architecture, and philosophy flourished because of the connections he forged. The Hellenistic age that followed his conquests became one of the most creative periods in ancient history. Alexander the Great remains one of history's most complex figures, a hero to some, a tyrant to others. He was a brilliant strategist, a fearless leader, and a visionary who dreamed of uniting humanity under one empire. But he was also ruthless, ambitious, and often consumed by his own legend. His story is a reminder of how thin the line can be between greatness and destruction, between genius and madness. More than 2,000 years later, his name still inspires awe. Statues, cities, and stories around the world carry his legacy. Historians still debate who he truly was: a savior who spread knowledge and culture, or a conqueror who brought endless war. Perhaps the truth lies in between. Alexander was both hero and villain, visionary and destroyer, a man who changed history forever. And so his legend lives on. Alexander the Great, the man who sought to conquer the world, and in doing so, conquered time itself.
you